everyone.
everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here today at the College Readiness Workshop hosted by AYM. My name is Mia.
And my name is Nathan. We're both college graduates from UC Berkeley, and we're also mentors here with AYM, which is short for Area Youth Ministry. AYM is a nonprofit organization that's all about equipping the next generation. We offer what we like to call the 3 C's: community, cause, and coaching, meaning that we offer youth groups, community service opportunities, and mentorship. And of course, special webinars and workshops just like these.
Now, we know that high school can be a really stressful time, especially when you're trying to apply and get into college. And we're hoping to share some real advice from our college student volunteers in AYM. We hope to provide clarity in an otherwise confusing process and steer away from just giving you a long list of things to do.
We have a packed program for you guys today, and we're going to be learning about all the different areas of your future college application. We'll be going through 4 different modules, each less than 10 minutes long.
So, we'll start with questions like what college should I go to? And what are the components of a good application?
And then we'll cover the kind of classes and tests you're going to want to be taking and end out with what extracurriculars you should do and how to write about them. And those 2 are really the meat of today's workshop. You're going to want to stick around for the second half.
So here are our speakers for today. We're going to hear from Kyle, Stone, Talvi, and Josie, and they're from universities all around the U.S.
And so that's enough for me and Mia for now. Kyle, let's kick it over to you with our first topic. What college should I go to?
Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle, and today I'm going to step through what college you should go to. All right, so college. It seems to be the only thing teachers seem to agree on. You got to go to college. But what does that even mean? And what are the different types of colleges? And how do I pick? And what do I do? As a college student myself, I remember these questions racing through my mind as I scrambled to get everything together. It felt daunting to try and figure out where I was going to spend the next 4 years of my life. I think that feeling of being lost is something you can all relate with. But have no fear, me and my friends are going to help walk you through this process. So here's a little breakdown over what I'm going to be stepping through. I'm going to briefly explain what college is and lay out your options. Then I'm going to step to the different factors you should consider when choosing. Let's start off in defining what college is. Most people's first thoughts are to 4-year programs, your traditional bachelor's program. But that's actually not your only option. There are trade schools, which are 2-year programs where you can pick up certain skills and certifications needed to do trade jobs, like to be a plumber or an electrician. Then there are community colleges. You might be familiar with community colleges because maybe you've taken a couple of classes there. Most community colleges are like springboards. You go there for 2 years and then you transfer to a 4-year university. But you can also be done with college after the 2 years at community college and walk away with an associate's degree. Finally, we have your 4-year universities. These are the types of colleges people think about when people say college. Think UC Berkeley, Stanford, Harvard, etc. Okay, so now that you kind of know what types of colleges there are, your next question is probably, how do I choose? So here are some of the factors you might want to consider. The rest of this presentation will be primarily focused on 4-year universities because that's what most of you probably want to hear about. So there are 2 types of colleges, public and private, and whichever one you choose will drastically affect the price along with your experience. If you look at this wonderful infographic, you'll see that private colleges are more expensive, but offer smaller class sizes and a more specialized education. Public colleges are funded by local and state governments and usually offer lower tuition rates than private colleges, especially for students who are residents of the state where a college is located. But the class sizes are much bigger. One time I was in a class with 2,000 students. Another factor that you'll want to look at is whether it's in-state or out-of-state. Now, I personally chose to attend college close to home so I could be near my family, and it saved me some money. But maybe you want to experience a bit of freedom and independence and try something new. Or maybe you want to expand your options beyond your home state. For example, maybe you grew up freezing in Minnesota. Then maybe the allure of the California sun might bring you to a school like UCLA. However, be aware that sometimes you have to pay an out-of-state tuition, and also keep in mind the travel costs to that school. Also keep in mind that different colleges specialize in different things, and this will affect what you learn and the resources you'll be able to access in regards to your field of study. Sometimes colleges that may not seem as prestigious may be a better fit depending on your major. For example, UC Davis has an amazing veterinary program. So if you want to become a vet, you might be better off going there than a more prestigious school like UC Berkeley. If you know what you want to study, you can do some Googling and find the schools that best fit your academic interests. Finally, once you've picked out a couple colleges you think be the right fit, you can reach out to students who go to these colleges to find out what it's like. And that's about it. There are a lot more factors to think about, but these are just some of the things that I would consider if I were applying to college again. And with that, I'll hand it back to Mia and Nathan.
Thank you, Kyle. Now, I know that if I had known what all the different types of colleges were at the time, maybe I would have approached applying to college differently.
Yeah, when I was applying to college, I basically looked at those big schools with a well-known name, and I didn't even really consider alternative options or even think about, does this college have a good program in what I'm studying?
So we hope that was helpful. And next, we're going to move along to Stone, who's going to tell us about the admissions process and how we can actually get into college.
Hi guys, I'm Stone, and I'm a master's student at UC Berkeley. So now that you have a plan for what schools you want to go to, I want to help you guys work through the application process itself. So before we get into it, I will admit there's going to be a lot of information dumped to you all at once. But once you have it listed out, I hope it helps relieve some of the stress associated with this idea of applying. Before we begin, here's a roadmap for my section of this webinar. First, I'll explain what is holistic admissions. Second, I'll follow up on Kyle's talk by sharing why it's important to know a bit about the schools you're applying to. And lastly, we'll get into the 4 core parts of the application process itself. So let's look at the high-level picture of the application. For most colleges, they use a thing called a holistic admissions model, which put simply is that the admissions officer wants to use as many metrics as possible to know who you are and whether or not you'll fit into their college. One key aspect that they are looking for is passion. As much of our passion guides who we are and how we live our lives. So what is passion? Well, passion is a state of having strong emotions about something. You can think of it as answering this question, what do I care about? Now, these words passionate and interesting may seem daunting, as for me, when I was applying, I thought, man, I'm neither of these things. And I think some of you here may feel that way as well. And I want to assure you that as unique individuals, you will have an interesting life story to share if you're willing to. And when you spend some time to look at the things you care about, your passion will inevitably reveal itself. Now, how do they do this? Well, put simply, they use 4 main aspects of the application to help them figure out who you are. First, your academic history. Second, your test scores. Third, your extracurricular activities. And fourth, your essays. While the first 2 are very intellectual, they serve as more of a check on how you will fit into the academic rigor, while the latter 2 actually help the officer see your depth as a person. Before you're able to start putting together these aspects, you need to first know what schools you're applying to, as Kyle talked about. With these, you can look into their stats and break them down into reach, safety, and match schools. Reach schools are one with low acceptance rate and stats higher than yours, stats being your grades and your test scores. Match schools are about equal and have an average amount of acceptances, and safeties are one with pretty high acceptance and stats much less than yours. However, remember, these are averages. So that means there are people who don't necessarily reach them, but get in for reasons beyond test results and grades. As a key result of your research is that with that information, you should tailor your application to the school that you're applying to by looking at their mission statement and your major and leaning into those things. Practically, you'll be applying to the Common App. It's an online application tool that lets you create a list of schools and then send them the main essay and your contact information. Each of them would generally also assign particular tasks for each school, like more essays, so that they can know more about you and how you fit into their particular culture. However, there are schools that don't use Common App. A key example is the University of California system. And while it may seem inconvenient, please don't write off these schools just because of this. And here we are is this little snippet of what the Common App looks like. Without going into really in-depth tutorials or anything, I just want to point out how it creates a space to organize what college you're applying to and helps you work through that process. As we go through my section of the webinar, I've included more screenshots to show what exactly each section will look like. Okay, so now let's talk about what these schools look for. Firstly, they look into academics as their first metric. First, they look at your grades. You will submit your transcript to the colleges, and they do look at all 4 years of grades. And don't be too alarmed, as while you might have had a bad class, they do look at the whole thing and will actually just compare you to your entire school, as that gives the colleges the best method of understanding how well you actually did. Secondly, they care about your coursework. Specifically, they look to see if you comparatively tried to stretch yourself in proportion to the amount of hard classes that are available at your high school. They also need to make sure that you have the prerequisite courses for your major, especially if you're able to complete them at the school, at your high school. The second metric is standardized tests. Firstly, colleges look at your scores mainly from the SAT and ACT. These are the two main college admissions exams. While it may be confusing to choose which one to take as they really aren't cheap tests, generally the key difference is that the SAT tests you on general knowledge and the ability to take tests well, while the ACT tests you on your critical thinking skills. Because of the pandemic, there's actually a new test called a CTL that you can take at home, and it's similar to the SAT. Secondly, they look at your AP and IB tests. Similarly, coursework, the amount you do isn't the key factor in the way this applies, as they look more to the comparative workload. These tests can also get you college credits and allow for you to skip some of your intro classes, which in my experience grade a little harsher than your more advanced college classes, so you might want to skip them. The third metric they use is your extracurricular activities. These extracurriculars answer the question of what do you do besides from class? Because it tells them about what you are passionate about and how you can fit into their culture. This section lets them know that you aren't just your education. The two key words to think about are breadth and depth. Breadth here means how many different types of things do you do? For example, you could be doing sports, clubs, and a job outside of school. But on the other hand, you have depth, which means how far have you worked on one particular thing? For example, going in depth with a service club may look like becoming president and then leading a big event that includes students outside of the club. While both are important, I would suggest focusing on depth because, as stated at the beginning, admission officers care about passion, and depth gives them a much clearer picture of what you care about. Finally, we have the essays, or technically essays. These essays ask questions about who you are and allow for you to give context and tie together the whole application. Some of the topics they may ask you to write about are your leadership experiences, how you work through challenges in life, or how you fit into the key mission statement. But regardless of the topic, the key thing here is to tell your story. A suggestion for these essays is to write them not like one you would give your teacher, but like a story you'd share with a friend over a campfire. Because admission officers want to know about you in these parts, and a list of facts gives them, frankly, nothing. The funny story is that when I applied, I had to rewrite my main Common App essay like 5 times because the only feedback I got from my aunt and uncle who edited for me was that it was just boring. It's just they're just like, who cares? This is just facts. But when I finally wrote it like a story, I can say that the essay ended up quite well and got their approval, and I think the approval of colleges as well. So 2 final aspects that I didn't include in the core 4 are the letters of recommendation and the interview. The letters of recommendation are one that your teachers, mentors, and supervisors send to the colleges to tell them of both how you are a good fit for the program and what have you done with the write of this letter. And for you guys, all you really need to do for this is to ask if they are willing to write a helpful recommendation for you. Also, please don't send colleges like a giant pile of letters. Just send a few select ones from people who know you well, especially from that know you in high school. And the interview is normally an optional one that some colleges ask you to do so that they can know you better. For this, I would suggest practicing your response to questions that might come up and to try to actually take the interviews for schools that you want to get into, as generally, interviews don't really write poor reviews, so the interview can only help. Okay, wow, that was a lot I covered in a short time. But I hope that by knowing what you need to do, you won't be stressed by seeing a bunch of applications with a bunch of things to do in them. And remember, the 4 main things you need to have are your academics, your test scores, your extracurricular activities, and your essays. Thank you for hearing me out. And now I'll pass it on to Mia and Nathan.
All right, thanks, Stone.
So now we know about what the types of colleges are and also how we can apply to college. But let's go ahead and get a little bit deeper into some of those areas that Stone had talked about earlier.
So now our friend Talvi is going to dive into the academics and test portions of the college application to help you plan out what classes and tests to take for the rest of your high school career. So take it away, Talvi.
Thanks, guys, and thank you, Stone, for that amazing, interesting, and very informative session on how the admission process goes. So before we get started, let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Talvi. I am a second year at Northern Virginia Community College and at University of the Nations, and I am a major in early childhood development and elementary education. So in this part of the webinar, I'm going to be talking to you guys about what courses you guys should be taking before college and talk to you guys about some college admission testings. So before heading in, one thing to keep in mind is that your courses actually do matter. They allow colleges to see what your interests are, what do you want to do, and what you want to major in. So first, let's start off with your electives. As you know, electives are like extra classes you can take outside of your four main subjects. The electives that you pick let college admissions see what are your interests and passions are. So when picking out your electives, have them be tailored toward your major. So you guys can even discuss or even like think about what kind of electives or majors you guys are interested in. Some electives that I took were a lot of early childhood classes and student teaching classes so that I could really see what it was like to be a teacher and what it took to be a teacher as well. Like I said, these electives kind of give you a preview of what to expect in the field you're interested in. So when you go to college, you have a better and a clear idea of what you want to take and do in college. So now, depending on your schedule, you could also add in some prerequisites along with your electives. Some colleges require high school students to complete certain classes in order to major in a program in their college. So for example, the University of Texas requires students seeking to enroll as an architecture major to complete AP or honor physics, pre-calculus, and calculus in high school. So it's best to talk with your school counselor or even better, contact the college themselves to see if you have any courses you need to take for certain colleges or even the major you're interested in. Again, it's great to talk to your school counselors about any required classes you have to take in order for you to graduate from high school as well. And to make those required classes just a little bit interesting, you could take AP or IB depending on your school. Now, these courses, AP and IB courses, can give you a little boost in your GPA, give you some college credits, and also give you some college course experiences as well. It's great, just like your electives, to look at any AP courses that fit your desired major or interest as well. Again, it's great to talk to your school guidance counselor first when deciding on what courses to take so they can guide you and help you along the way. So here are just a few examples of AP classes that are available. You guys can go visit the College Board website that's on the slide to find out more information, or even ask your school what AP or IB courses are available. I personally took an AP Human Geography class in high school. Very interesting class, would definitely recommend if you're really interested in history or you just want to know about the reasons why the human geography is like the way it is now. So one thing about AP and IB courses is that if you want those credits to count towards college, you have to take an AP or IB testing exam and send them to your college of choice. So when you send in the college, the scores, the college will see if they will accept the score or not, and then it will count as a credit. So you're probably thinking, what if I don't have any room in my schedule, or are there any alternatives? Well, there are some alternatives to AP and IB. So an alternative my guidance counselor told me about was that sometimes if you don't have room in your class schedule to take an AP or IB class, you can just take the test and exam on its own. The only thing is that you have to study and know the material on your own and outside of your school schedule. And lastly, another alternative to AP and IB are dual enrollment classes. You take college classes in high school, so you're basically a high school student and a college student at the same time. And those courses are connected to your local community college. These classes let you transfer them to any college in your state, guaranteed, as long as you have a C or higher in that class. so no testing required. I took a dual English and government class my senior year of high school because dual enrollment just became a thing that year. And I would definitely recommend dual enrollment classes because not only were they free college credits, and not only did I save money in college, I was able to finish some required college classes I had to take my first year. And I was able to make even more room in my college schedule my freshman year to actually take classes I was interested in. Now, one thing to keep in mind when picking up your classes is to not overwork yourself. It is completely okay to take only one or none AP classes throughout your high school career. Take classes that best fit you and your schedule so you don't overwork or tire yourself out. Now, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, SAT and ACT testing. Just a refresher for some of you, SAT and ACT, depending on your state and what school you want to apply to, you have to take tests, and each school has their own preference, so it's best to see what your school wants. Now, many colleges are test optional now, but universities will still look at them when you send them in. One, it gives you great opportunities to get scholarships when you send in test scores, so free money. And sending them in let admission officers see some more of your strength outside of your academics. So let's look at some similarities and differences between the two tests. Now, both SAT and ACT have a math, reading, and an optional writing section. One of the only differences between the two is that the ACT has a science section. And in that section, you're mostly being tested on reading data. And the last difference between the two tests are the essay sections, since the essays in the two tests are structured very differently. So just a basic overview is that the ACT essay is structured around building an argument. Are you able to convincingly argue your own position? And the SAT essay is literary analysis. So can you read a passage and explain how the author presents their argument? Now let's break down the two tests just a little bit more. So it takes about 1 minute and 10 seconds per question for the SAT, and only 49 seconds per question for the ACT. That's a very huge difference in time. And the reason for that is the ACT is mostly focused on recall. Do you know the answer, yes or no? And the SAT is trying to test your critical thinking. Can you think through and understand what the question is asking and how each of the options answer the question? So that means that even though there's more time per question on the SAT, each question will take longer due to the more difficult English comprehension. So time management is key for both tests, but is tested in different ways. So it's great to take practice tests between the two so you can see which test shows off more of your strength. So in the next slide, here is just a breakdown of how many questions are in each section of the SAT and ACT. Again, it's great to take some practice tests to find out some of your strengths and which test shows off your strengths the best. I used to teach SAT and ACT prep class, and one thing we always did with our students was that when taking their practice tests, they have to actually time themselves so they can learn how to pace through the test and learn about test taking strategies as well. Now, you're probably thinking, there's a pandemic right now. It's kind of hard to take those tests at the moment. Well, there is an alternative for y'all, and that is called the CLT. Very similar to the SAT. One of the only differences between the CLT and SAT is that the CLT allows you to take it in the comfort of your home. So you can take it in bed and in your pajamas. So it's great to contact and ask your college of interest if they are accepting any CLT testings at the moment. I know personally on the East Coast and at Liberty University, they are now accepting CLT tests. So it's best to check with the school before sending or even taking the test. Now, one thing I want to leave you guys off with is that the test scores do not define who you are and does not say if you can get into a college or not. You can get into a college with a low score or even without a score itself. So just a reminder that it's okay to not take the test. Colleges really want to get to know you, and the test is just another way to show off your skills and another way to show college officials who you are. They're really interested in getting to know you as a person, and in the next session, you guys are going to learn all about that. Thank you.
Wow, thanks so much, Tavi. I definitely could have heard that in high school. I kind of just wanted to stack all of the AP classes that I possibly could, but it probably would have just been better to pick up a manageable workload and take just the classes I was interested in.
Yeah, totally. I remember I had a friend junior year, he took 5 APs and then he took 5 additional AP tests on top of that. And man, he did not look happy.
Yeah. And next, we have our big finale. How do you actually make yourself stand out in this sea of applicants? Now, we know that it's not just about grades and test scores. And so for this section, we'll turn it over to Josie.
Hi, my name is Josie. I'm a first year at Harvard, and some of the most common questions I get are, what kind of extracurricular activities do I need to do to get accepted into a school like Harvard? How many? What if I don't have enough to write about in my essays? How do I even write my essays? If this is you, you're in the right place because today I'm going to talk all about how you can get a jump start on writing all about your different experiences, whether you're a freshman or a senior. The first thing we're going to do is look at the essay prompts. This is not just for you upperclassmen if you haven't already. Even for my freshmen and sophomores, I highly recommend this step because I found that knowing the exact essay questions I would need to answer come senior fall was really helpful in deciding what extracurriculars I should do before then. Keep in mind that as an applicant, you are just as much of a stranger to those faceless admissions boards as they are to you. Hopefully, by looking at the prompts with me today, you can see that your essays and activities both serve the same purpose: to allow college admissions officers a chance to find out who you really are beyond the numbers and letters they could easily compare with a million other students, especially since these days, more and more schools are phasing out standardized testing. We cannot cover every single application prompt used by every college in the US today, but you will likely submit one 650-word personal statement to every college you apply to on the Common App, which Stone talked about earlier. Each school may have additional essay prompts that typically range anywhere from 100 to 500 words, are specific to that school alone, and will require you to do a little more research into the types of majors and campus organizations you would personally be invested in should you get accepted. Now, looking at these 7 prompts, it's clear that they want you to describe what you're passionate about, what sparks your curiosity and makes you want to learn, your successes and times where you've had to struggle or learn to be resilient, how your values and worldviews have been shaped by your lived experience. That's why your main goal while picking and writing about your extracurriculars should be to allow these readers to get the most accurate picture of who you are as a student, an activist, athlete, gamer, a leader, whatever it is that you love to do. Now, I can't give you an exact formula for what types of extracurriculars you need to do to get into an Ivy League, but a key indicator of who you are is what you spend your time doing. And as you can see in this list that is straight from the Common Applications activity section, you have many options to showcase what you're passionate about and committed to. Because this is inherently the most subjective part of your entire college applications, I thought it would be cool and very productive to hear from more than just one Harvard student. The first person I want to introduce you to is my buddy Marcus. In high school, he played varsity soccer, was a historian for student council, and volunteered with his local Salvation Army through a program called Southside Servers, where he and his friends got to go into retirement homes and do things with the elderly residents. He said soccer allowed him to showcase a non-academic side of him, but his most impactful extracurricular activity was working with Southside Servers because to him, it didn't really feel like volunteering. He said it was just spending time with friends and doing something I love. All right, next up is my friend Claire, whose main extracurricular in high school was journalism. She started her freshman year and ended up becoming co-editor in chief during her senior year. She told me what made journalism so important to me was that at the end of the day, you had made this product, something with value. She loved that she got to share real people's stories with a larger audience and grow and improve to the point where she was able to pass on her knowledge to younger students. These two awesome human beings lit up when they were given a chance to talk about the things they were passionate about in high school. So if you're going to take anything away from these stories, it should be to find the things that interest you or challenge you, make you excited or frankly angry enough to want to spark change. Not just because you think it'll look good on your college app, because it shows. Readers can tell. Only you can present an authentic picture of you and your many multifaceted interests that will capture the attention of admissions officers. And if you don't believe me, take it from Carol, an actual college application reader who supported me throughout my essay writing experience. These are her words. I would say that quality over quantity is best when it comes to extracurriculars. As a reader, I'm not looking for a bunch of activities that are short lived. We look for commitment and longevity. Something a student has done for all 4 years of high school is better than something they did for 1 week in their sophomore year. So, for my underclassmen, staying committed is extremely valuable. If you're doing the things you enjoy, it should naturally fall into place that you continue doing them and challenge yourself to take on greater responsibilities in various leadership roles, which is also something readers look for. Let this also serve as a word of warning for my upperclassmen because readers like Carol also react when they see a student loading up on extracurriculars in their junior and senior year, like they decided they better do something to pad their resume. But I think what Tavi said earlier about making sure you don't overwhelm yourself academically also applies here, because stacking your schedule just because you think it'll look good is not worth sacrificing your mental health. At this point, if some of you are thinking, oh no, I don't have any long-term extracurricular commitments to talk about, fear not and allow me to bring you back to my previous slide with all your activity options. Notice how even family responsibilities and working are part of the activity section, because the truth is not every high school has an abundance of clubs and activities for students to join, much less take leadership positions in. Not everyone can afford the same opportunities. Maybe you didn't have time to participate in after school things because you had to work part-time to support your family, take care of your siblings, or you experienced major educational disruptions like transferring schools. Whatever your situation is, it is neither something to be ashamed about nor discouraged by, because if anything, you must have a lot more to say when it comes to learning how to manage your education on top of other responsibilities. The important thing is to make sure you convey this information in your application, either in the longer essay or the additional information section, which actually the Common App gives you 650 words for. All right, now moving on to how do I start writing about everything? The short answer, learn to reflect, because hundreds of applicants will have likely done the same activities as you. But what will set you apart is a personal way you've critically engaged and grown from these activities or your special circumstances. Thus, I encourage you to be vulnerable because, after all, they do call it a personal statement. If you're unfamiliar with how to reflect and be vulnerable on paper, this tool on this next slide is for you. This is the WISE method, which stands for what? Issue/impact, skills, and extrapolate. Whether you're starting your essay or just thinking about it, I encourage all of you to literally sit down and start by jotting down what you did. Next, I want you to think about what issues you addressed and the type of impact you had, whether it be at the personal, local, national, or global level, depending on the activity. Then dig deeper. What skills did you learn from this experience? And I'm talking both hard skills like coding, public speaking, or soft skills like organization and communication. Lastly, extrapolate. How will you apply these lessons to your life now? How have your experiences inspired your future aspirations? And I totally get that this is actually quite difficult to wrap our heads around. So I'm going to walk you through my personal statement, and hopefully you can be able to see how this WISE method of reflection can help you structure your essay come time to write it. So I chose the first prompt that tells you to write about a background or identity that is so meaningful you believe your application would be incomplete without it. I started my essay with a clear statement of my background as a first generation low income college student of color. Always answer the prompt directly. Then, as you can see, I reordered some of my reflections from my WISE method to write the rest. I identified the issue of how I struggled to communicate with my parents and how they struggled to get adequate healthcare due to language and cultural barriers. I talked about what I did. I learned how to be independent and took up the role of an advocate for my parents' health. Then I highlighted the skills and lessons I learned, such as how to communicate love across language and cultural barriers and on how to be resourceful. Finally, I extrapolated. I ended my essay by sharing how being witness to my parents' health struggles drives my desire to work in public health. All right, having gutted this very personal and vulnerable essay with me, I hope you feel like I'm a little bit less of a stranger to you, because that's the type of effect you want to have on your reader. 2 practical tips from my personal experience I want to leave you with, and this might go against some things you've heard, but don't overwhelm yourself with too many editors. I know the temptation to share your Google Doc with a dozen people, and I literally did that, but it really hindered my ability to finalize my essays, so don't feel pressure to get everyone and their brother's opinion. Second, do seek out a mentor or someone you feel comfortable having those couch conversations with about your story and how you want to present yourself on paper. Carol was that person for me, and it worked. And if you find that you don't have a mentor or older person in your life who can help you like that, sign up for AYM Thrive, and I promise you'll meet one who is eager and willing. As I end, I hope you can hold on to these 3 key takeaways. Number 1, know the prompt. Number 2, passion over perfection. And number 3, reflect authentically and vulnerably. Bonus points if you use the WISE method. That's it for me, but thank you for listening and good luck on your paths to college, you guys.
Thank you so much, Josie. I really appreciate that point about the fact that it's not just about getting words on a page, it's actually about reflecting on your life and your experiences so that you can tell a compelling story.
Yeah, so big thank you to Josie and all of our presenters today. Let's go ahead and give them a big virtual round of applause.
Yay. But we're actually not quite done yet. We have a very special offer for y'all tuning in today. We're going to open up AYM Thrive Mentorship, the thing that Josie mentioned in her talk, for whoever wants to join. You'll get paired with a college student, just like our presenters here today, for mentorship.
And these college mentors, they can give you advice on not only your college app and help you craft essays, but more than that, they can help coach you through academics, life, and just a whole lot more. And we hope that we gave you a little flavor of what our college mentors can offer you today.
But don't just take it from us. We have one of our high school mentees, Alex from Oakland, California, on the line, who wanted to tell you about why you should get a mentor.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex and I'm a mentee with AYM. And if you're like me, high school life has been really hard and just made harder with COVID. But I just found that it really helps to have an older person to help guide me along when I didn't know and still don't know what to do. One example was when my mentors, Nathan, Ben, Edward, and Nick, they all helped me when I was having trouble managing my time and sleep schedules. I felt really lost trying to figure out on my own, but my mentors really helped me practically by just being there to help think through a time schedule for my work and sleep. In all, I think that mentorship has really helped me in my high school life, and I would highly recommend it to any high schooler who is struggling or is lost in any way or just wants a friend to talk to.
So after that pitch, you're probably ready to sign up. So we actually have a form in the YouTube description as well as on the slide on your screen. So go ahead and fill that out. And actually, as part of that form, we would also appreciate any feedback you have about today's content. Plus, you can also sign up for any other AYM offerings like community service opportunities or other workshops.
And last but not least, you will automatically be entered into a raffle to win one of 5 $10 Amazon gift cards.
And you can actually get a lot with $10 on Amazon, I promise. And so we're actually going to go ahead and give you a minute to fill that out right now.
All right, so thank you all so much for tuning in on this Saturday evening, and we hope that you were able to get some good takeaways from the content tonight.
So remember, please fill out the form if you'd like to stay connected in any way, and check those emails soon to see if you are one of our lucky winners of the $10 Amazon gift cards. So thank you for joining and have a good night.
Good night.
Mentorship.
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 Real people sharing real stories
Asking big questions.
and getting real answers.
Learning from someone just a step ahead.
Like a coach.
Getting to pick the brains of experts in the field, in your field.
Who are in your corner. Mentors are
college students or young professionals,
Software engineers.
Or on the med school track.
and product marketers. We come from all walks of life.
Mentorship is simple. Meet once a week or twice a week.
maybe once every 2 weeks.
Mentorship is completely customizable.
Is a space to be inspired.
Can you inspire me?
Mentorship is community, a place to make friends.
Meet new people, gain new perspectives.
Come on.
Because it's so much more than a Zoom call.
What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?